Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to another movie review and another anniversary slash revisit review. Now, I've already reviewed this film before. As I said, this is a revisit review, so you can check it back on my original review on it. But just a quick little revisit review on a film from 1993, so 25 years ago. And the film that I grew up enjoying, and that is of Dennis the Menace. I still enjoy this film to this day. 25 years later, I still enjoy the film. Grew up watching it a lot of times. Um, Came out during the summer of 1993. Was a success. Budget of 35 million. Domestically made about 51 million. Worldwide 117 million. So it was a success. Produced by John Hughes. And directed by Nick Castle, or also known as, I said this before when I reviewed this, directed by Michael Myers, because Nick Castle played Michael Myers in John Carpenter's Halloween, so that's why I say that, for as a poke fun of it. So yeah, Dennis Menace is directed by Michael Myers. Stars Mason Gamble as Dennis Mitchell. He still does a good job, I would say, and as Dennis the Menace. And, of course, Walter Matthau, who was absolute fun in this. Christopher Lloyd, who plays Switchblade Sam, the thief. He was a lot of fun. Growing up, to me, he was a lot of fun, though, to watch. Obviously got Leah Thompson as Dennis's mother. Joanne Paulroy, who plays Mrs. Wilson. Paul Winfield has a little role in this as the sheriff. And overall, you got a very good cast for this film. Overall, yeah. And the score by Jerry Goldsmith, which I do enjoy. I said before how many times I love Jerry Goldsmith, and I enjoy the score. It's one of the score. Is one of his. This is one of the original scores of Jerry Goldsmith that I grew up listening to, because it was the first scores by Jerry Goldsmith I listened to. I'd say. You know, da 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 da. So, Jerry Goldsmith did a wonderful job with the score, and according to John Hughes, producer John Hughes, Jerry Goldsmith was the only choice for him to do the score for this film. Yeah, which I could see. This is a special edition. This has a TV special, Menace named Dennis, making a featurette, memories of Menace, a 10-year later visit with Mason Gamble, conversations with Walter Matthau and John Hughes, trailers, and all those stuff. And of course, the making of back in the day, how they had like a lot of kids to audition for Dennis and Menace until Mason Gamble was selected. And there is an interview with Mason Gamble, like much more older, him talking about his experience in the film and how him and Walter Matthau became good friends, which is cool. But the film came out. Even though it was successful financially, but not critically, sadly though. It has a 28% Rotten Tomatoes, has a 5.59 DB. And Mason Gamble was nominated for a Razzie for Worst New Star, although he did win one for like the new star for a different thing though. But he still does a good job to me. The film, how it opens up, of course you got Jerry Goldsmith's score playing. Walter Matthau as George Wilson comes to get his paper. Then he hears the bicycle bell. He knows that Dennis is coming. Like, all the animals get scared away because he's the menace, and he gets all his medicines out. I think he's pretending to be sick. Although there was a scene in the trailer, like in that moment, where it's not in the movie though, but it's in the trailer, where he knows when he's coming. He talks with Mrs. Wilson. He's like, he's out of school now. He's coming, and Joanne Paulroy is like, I am not gonna fib for you, George. That scene that was in the trailer though, but that's not in the movie though. So, and then he gets all his medicines out, and then of course Dennis again, hey Mr. Wilson. Of course, I forgot this is based on an old it was a cartoon comic strip, wasn't it, originally? I think it was, and there were I think it was yeah, based on the comic strip. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So, and he goes up there, he sees him in bed, and tries to give him the pill, an aspirin, and he tries to like bite his teeth, and then he gets a slingshot, slings right to the guy's mouth. Like the model inside of Mr. Wilson's belly, he sees and slings it in there. Runs to his parents. His parents play by Leah Thompson, and plays the dad. Robert Stanton, who plays Dennis's father. I recognize that guy. He was in Mercury Rising. He was one of the workers that worked at that NSA that was killed to protect Simon. He was in Mercury Rising, but he plays Dennis's father. So they confiscated his slingshot for what he did. And Mr. Wilson has like this plant that he was tending to like 40 years. That like this one on one special night that it blooms into this beautiful flower, and he has this garden thing he does where the seniors do, and he was hoping he gets selected, which he does. So they're having his party at his place to see the flower, and then while this is going on, Christopher Lloyd as Switchblade Sam, he comes into town. He jumps off the train and he's looking. Oh, ain't that a pretty sight? I bet they don't even lock their doors. So through all this, he's just rummaging through the house to house, robbing houses, stealing stuff. Like first he steals a doll from that bully girl, Margaret, because Dennis, Margaret, and what was it? The other kid's name? The other kid that's with them. Joey. They finally go in the middle of the woods to find this old tree house. They're gonna rebuild it themselves. Switchblade Sam sees the doll laying there. He takes it, and then he walks around the neighborhood, and there's this kid as is sitting outside there. And first of all, this kid is like, okay, I have to say that when you see an older guy creepy looking with a creepy looking smile, right? If you're a kid, you first instance you should probably just like, first of all, the rule about talking to strangers and all that stuff. You should just run away though. But no, this kid just looks at him like nothing's wrong, and it's just Christopher is just looking at him smiling. It's like, what you got there, sport? And then he has an apple, and the Switchblade just takes it with his Switchblade. He takes it right from the kid's hands, and the kid's like, huh. Yeah, so first of all, you see a creepy looking guy like that, first thing you should run away, but he's a little kid, so he probably doesn't know any better. And he just takes the apple and just walks away. And then he sees an open window with a jewelry box with there, sitting right on top of them just for the taking. So he takes that. And then Dennis, he spills some paint in the garage. He tries to suck it with a vacuum cleaner. And then he takes it out of the back and just pushes the reverse button. All the paint spews out. And into Mr. Wilson's his steaks that he's cooking. And he's like, it tastes funny. It tastes like paint and wood. So he automatically suspects that Dennis had something to do with that. So later that night, when Dennis is being babysitted by this girl, and the guy that was invited over, that's actually the guy who played Buzz from Home Alone, Kevin's older brother, Buzz. So he comes the boyfriend to that girl that was babysitting him. And he sees the two of them making out on the couch, and he does the little goes outside, does the ring the doorbell and run away routine. And Mr. Wilson, he goes in the garage, he sees the vacuum cleaner, and he's fiddling with it, and then a golf ball gets stuck with the nozzle, and he hits the reverse button, he just hits him right between the legs. And he's like, and then the two kids, they plan to do a trap to the same person who's doing the DoorDash. And Mr. Wilson, he gets He gets like first they think a thumbtack on the doorbell, stungs his thumb, water polo with flour in his face, and then Mrs. Wilson opens up. He's like, "He's only a boy, huh?" And she starts laughing. Then Dennis comes over to make an apology letter, and he goes into Mr. Wilson's bathroom while he's sleeping. He messes with his false teeth. He chips the two front teeth off, and he gets some couple other things to replace it. While the photographer, played by Arnold Stang, who's the photographer, Arnold Stang, he's been like, I remember seeing from the original It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, and of course he was in Hercules in New York, Arnold's first movie. He was the nerdy guy that was with Arnold. He's the photographer, and he tells him to smile. Mr. Wilson has those two things that were placed for his teeth, and Mr. Wilson's like, uh-oh. That was the next. Then Dennis's parents had to go away on a separate business trip, so they call everybody, and they don't want to take him in because they know how Dennis is. So, of course, it's the Wilsons have to babysit him. Mr. Wilson's not too thrilled with that. Like, Dennis messes up. He's taking his bath, and he's water all over the floor. He switches some liquids out from his medicine chest from his nasal to like the toilet spray or whatever. He switches out of that. And then when Mr. Wilson goes to the bathroom, he slips on the wet floor and does the freaking splits. It just makes me funny because Walter was saying Walter Matthau doing all this comedic stuff. Well, especially when he does the splits, he's like, new pajamas. God bless them. Then he does like the mouthwash and he's like spits that out, and the nose spray. And he's like, woo! And then Mrs. Wilson tells Dennis a bedtime story, and she kind of feels because she never had any children, probably because of Mr. Wilson. So she gets upset by that, and Dennis brings over his dog, in which Mr. Wilson mistakes him for his wife, gives it a kiss, and he's like to the dog. It's like, get out of here! And then next day he's in the attic looking for his garden lanterns for his party, and Dennis drops some mothballs. He slips and falls on backwards, and the canoe almost hits him between the legs, and the garden lantern falls on top of him. Then it's time for the party. And then he sees the old ladies. Dennis sees them as like cheek pinchers, which he does. Ooh. And he's sitting quietly though, because he's a curious young guy, a little boy, and he sees a button, but he doesn't know that opens up the garage door, and it spills all this food over, and he says, "Oh, I made a mistake," and he gets punished, sent him to his room. And while that's going on, Mr. Wilson and all the guests are waiting for the flower to bloom, Christopher Lloyd comes in, and he finds Mr. Wilson's hidden bookcase with the safe and steals all of his gold coins. Dennis hears a noise because Christopher Lloyd dropped a coin. He stumps on with his foot, thinking nothing else is up. No one heard that. But Dennis sees the safe's empty, and when the flower's about to bloom, he's like, "Mr. Wilson, somebody robbed your house!" And everyone missed the whole blooming, and Mr. Wilson's like, he gets angry, like 40 years down the drain, and tells him, you're a pest, Menace. I don't want to see you. Get out of my way. He says he's sorry, so it doesn't help. He runs away. Then he meets with Christopher. He bumps into Christopher Lloyd, and then they have those. He's camping out underneath this bridge, and he's open up a can of beans, and then and he doesn't know how Dennis is, so he keeps on talking and talking. He tells him to shut up, and he wanted to show him his slingshot. Well, it's like, what is it? He's asking, what is a hostage supposed to do? In case the cops showed up, do I get to use a gun? No, you get to stand in front of me in case the cops use a gun. and he has a slingshot. He wants to show him the slingshot. He shoots, it bounces off a tree and hits him in the head. And then he fills with a fire, and a piece of the fire goes in the back of his pants. And he's like, his pants off first, like, oh! He jumps in the water, but he lands on this, I don't know what was in the water. I think it was like a wooden crate, or it was like a couch that was flipped over that he landed on. He tries to tie him up, he's doing a horrible job, and Dennis ties him up. He does a perfectly good job with the handcuffs as well. Then he drops the handcuff key in the pot of beans. And then, of course, one of my funny scenes in the film where he force feeds Christopher Lloyd the whole pot of beans because they already get the keys. Like, I want to kill you, little kid. How? You can't even move. Open up. I ain't hungry. he's like, keeps putting the spoon closer to him, and Christopher's like, it's like, Christopher Lloyd, it's just Christopher Lloyd's performance makes it all hilarious. And he feeds him the whole pot of beans, but he ends up swallowing the key as well. And Dennis is getting firewood. He cuts, Christopher cuts him, gets his blade and cuts the rope off, and just like, firewood, bombs away. He drops it, just lands right on top of him, knocks him out, and he's sleeping. He grabs, well, he wakes up again, but then, Dennis gets the blanket, but as he does, like unravels one of the things that he stole from, hits him in the head, and knocks him back out. Then he's dragging the blanket, catches on fire, puts on top of him, he catches on fire when he rummages through his sack with all the stuff that he's stolen, which he doesn't know that he stole all that. And Christopher Lloyd goes screaming, ah! The blood's on fire, he jumps back in the water. And he's just struggling in the water, because he also is wearing handcuffs as well, and Dennis makes a way to pull himself out. And then Dennis sees the gold coins that it was Mr. Wilson's. He's like, how come you got it? I stole it. You're a robber? I'm a thief. Say your prayers, you little rat. But then, because he has the rope attached to him, the train comes, the end of the caboose, like the lamp, catches the part of the rope and just pulls him up. And he's holding the train because it's pulling him through the pipe. But then the train lets go, he falls flat on that thing that was in the water, and then the blade falls right between his legs, like, oh! Then, and while it's going on, Mr. Wilson, because the whole neighborhood is searching for Dennis, and the police are looking out for him as well, the whole neighborhood, all the kids too, and Mr. Wilson, now Walter Matthau, he feels bad at what he says, so he goes out there and tries to search for him as well. But he couldn't find him, so the next morning, gets his paper, and then when he hears his bike bell, and then you got Jerry Goldsmith's music playing, and Christopher Lloyd, he has the shit kicked out of him basically. He's just all his face, he's all messed up looking, and just he got the living shit kicked out of him by a 5-year-old. And Paul Winfield comes, which I forgot to mention, Paul Winfield met him earlier because he was taking a purse, hiding under his coat, and was like, I never seen you around here before. Well, that's because I haven't been around here. And he's like, oh, the only reason why I haven't moved on because you stopped to give me the breeze. Does that? Yeah, so he met with Paul Winfield earlier. So then Paul Winfield, he's looking at him, he's like, help. And then he tells me, I bet you're willing to tell everybody at the big house that you met our Dennis Mitchell. And then Dennis gives him back his blade, and he was gonna do it like a stick hit, get him with his knife, but then Paul Winfield slams the door on his hand and he drops it into the sewer. He's like, oh! And then later, Dennis is roasting a marshmallow, and Walter Matthau, Joanne Paul Wright, and Delia Thompson, and Robert Stanton, they're talking because they don't want them taking any more business trips because how Dennis is, but Walter Matthau and Mr. and Mrs. Wilson saying that they'll be willing to watch Dennis. And Walter Matthau thinks he's fine with it now, and when Dennis he's trying to pull up that flaming marshmallow, he flings it and then flings it all the way back, and it hits Walter Matthau right in the head. He's like, and then as the end credits are going, a worker that was working with Leah Thompson, she's gonna make some print some papers, and Dennis is right there, and I like how Leah Thompson, she looks, and she leaves because she knows what she's having coming to her, so he pushes the print button, gets her like her scarf like entangled into the machine, and she's laying flat on the printer, getting her face printed of her faces. And then Jerry Goldsmith's music is playing. So yeah, I still enjoy this film. It was a childhood film that I grew up enjoying. 25 years later, it's still a fun family film. Lots of laughs, especially for me. Especially the ones I described, I got a lot of laughs out of. Walter Matthau did a really good job. May he rest in peace. Mason Gamble as Dennis as well. Paul Winfield, nice to see him in the little role he had as the sheriff. Leah Thompson, I enjoy seeing. Robert Stanton, who was as the father as well. Joanne Pauthright as Mrs. Wilson, she did a really good job. Christopher Lloyd, he was hilarious as Switchblade Sam. Roger Ebert gave the film 2.5 out of 4. He says there's a lot in the film to like, but he didn't care for the character of Switchblade Sam, thinking that it was best to leave him out of it. I probably would though, but to me, I enjoy Christopher Lloyd, who is a very funny as Switchblade Sam. I think he's supposed to be like this really badass thief or whatever, but ends up getting his ass kicked by a 5-year-old. Especially, it was good makeup on Christopher Lloyd too. It was making him like all dirty looking, his teeth as well, and all that. So it was good, pretty decent makeup effects on Christopher Lloyd, making him look like a dirty old thief. Jerry Goldsmith, I love his score of the film. Well directed by Nick Castle. It's easily fast paced. 96 minutes. Take out the end credits. Less than that. Easily fast paced. Of course, it came out with sequels, though I just didn't care for the sequels. I was better off with the first one, so I didn't ever care for the sequels, like Dennis Menace Strikes Again, like Dennis's Dinosaur Adventure. I didn't care for those sequels, so I have no interest. I have no interest in watching them, so I'll stick with this film. I had a lot of fun with this film. See, the 25th anniversary of Dennis the Menace. I still love this film. Fun family film growing up. Great performance, especially by Walter Matthau and Christopher Lloyd. Especially Mason Gamble as well. Which, of course, I forgot to mention, Mason Gamble was like later in 1993. He was going to star in a werewolf film that I reviewed, called was it Bad Moon? Yeah, I think it was. Trying to look for it. Yeah, I think it was Bad Moon. It was a fun werewolf film. He would go also star in this as well. Mason Gamble as well. So yeah, Dennis the Menace. I still give it a thumbs up. So. But yeah, 25th anniversary revisit of Dennis the Menace. Still a fun family film. I still enjoy it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned on the next movie review. Later.